Finance Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, joining us now. Mr. Chidambaram, appreciate you joining us here on the show. So you've called demonetization a failed experiment. The government's argument is that the opposition is missing the woods for the trees because this has to be seen in sequence. It can't be seen in isolation. It's one of the many steps that the government has taken to ensure that we're moving towards a formal, transparent and cleaner economy.
There is no wood. All that I see is desolation and devastation. So the question of missing the wood for the trees doesn't arise. If you wanted to move towards a cleaner, more tax-compliant economy, that is entirely possible without heaping misery on millions and millions of people. Let me just give you a couple of statistics. 15 crore workforce in this country is casual labor, daily wage labor. Those 15 crore were immiserized for several weeks. Don't look at anecdotal evidence. On television, we've got human beings come live on television and explain how they suffered. Number two, small businesses have been virtually wiped out. This morning's papers, all the newspapers are carrying stories from Tirupur, from Surat, from Bhiwandi, from Agra. Are these stories true stories or fiction? Therefore, if you wanted a cleaner, more tax-compliant system, by all means do it. But no government has a right to immiserize millions of people.
Okay, you're saying no government has a right to heap that kind of misery. But if I could talk about some of the specifics that the government has put forward as what it believes is the success of the demonetization impact. Let me start by talking to you about one specific such measure, sir, and that is cash to GDP. The government believes that from 17.5 lakh crores, which is the currency in circulation, according to the Reserve Bank data, it's down to 16 lakh crore rupees. And the hope is that we will now be more aligned to global standards when it comes to cash to GDP. The finance minister says that this is going to be a big way, not just of cleaning up, but also of ensuring that the black economy doesn't restart.
Let me answer that. Now, they artificially reduce the supply of cash. Cash to GDP ratio is a measure of money supply. Who decides how much money supply should be there in an economy? It's the RBI. Has the RBI abdicated its responsibility and allowed the government to decide how much money supply there should be? Second question. Is cash to GDP ratio, where is the standard? Is there a universal standard that cash to GDP ratio must be X%? And if it goes above X, it's bad. It goes below X, it's good. I have not read any textbook on economics which says that there is a standard cash to GDP ratio. Number three, I'm of the view, and I've argued this, the artificial reduction of money supply is one of the reasons why there is lower demand, lower number of jobs that are being created, if any are being created at all, lower rise in wages and income, and lower growth. If there is not sufficient money supply in an economy that aspires to grow at 8%, growth will be affected. And one of the reasons why growth has been affected is this artificial reduction in money supply. And finally, you compress money supply, but you had to remonetize the economy. Money supply had to be increased by the RBI. It has slowly crept up. It's now 16 lakh crore. It was 17.4 lakh crore in November 2016. And I'm absolutely sure in about a year and a half, it will come back to 17.5 lakh crore. Because if the economy needs that kind of money supply, the RBI has no choice but to print and supply that kind of money. All these are voodoo economics, which has no basis at all in any textbook that I've seen.
Okay, let me then ask you about what the government claims is the other big success, and that it says is a crackdown on suspicious transactions. The finance minister in his blog saying 1.8 million people were found to have made unusual deposits during demonetization. We can now ascertain who the real owners are. Cash seizures by the IT department have more than doubled in the year, up about 38%. That is the figure in terms of the undisclosed income. So on the issue of the crackdown on suspicious transactions and black money, in your assessment as the former finance minister, sir, how equipped is the tax department to ensure that we do, in fact, see this money, which the government believes is black money, in fact being recovered?
I set up the Financial Intelligence Unit. And pending the FIU, I introduced the banking cash transaction tax to track deposits of cash and withdrawals of cash in large volumes. When the FIU was set up, we scrapped that tax. The FIU reports every day, every week, thousands and thousands of transactions which are called suspicious transactions. STR reports come. Now, of these reports, at the most, the CBDT can handle, say, maybe a couple of hundred reports and ask its various offices and various cities and towns to look into it more deeply. No more than that. Now, if you've got 1.8 million reports or 1.8 lakh reports, you gave me a number. Where is the capacity of the CBDT or anyone to pursue each report? It's simply not possible. Ultimately, they will come down to pursuing maybe 100, 200 reports a month. Even that will demand a lot of manpower and a lot of time. And in order to drill into 100, 200 reports a month, there are other ways in which this could have been done. We introduced FIU, we introduced STR, we introduced third-party reporting. We made it mandatory for large value transactions to be done only by check. You could have added to that armor and added more steps in that direction rather than overnight withdraw 86% of currency in circulation. Ultimately, what is your catchment area? Even the numbers given by the FM gives a catchment as a few lakhs, isn't it? A few lakhs of people, a few 100,000 people. Let's take it even 10 lakhs of people. If 10 lakhs of people is your catchment area for your black money drive, for your compliance drive, what gives you the right to heap misery on 100 crore people in order to go after these 10 lakh people? That is my question. Could you not have thought of other ways in which to expand your ability or increase your capacity to hit at the people who are non-compliant?
Let me then ask you about one of the other claims that the government makes, and that is the formalization of the economy. And some could argue that that objective could have been achieved with the goods and services tax. But the finance minister giving some data, for instance, on the premium that's been collected by life insurance companies, which he says has more than doubled since November of 2016. The digital move that we've seen with whether it's UPI or mobile transactions, etc., which have seen a significant jump up, or it's savings moving towards mutual funds, which have been significant as well. So the argument is that we're moving towards formalization of the economy as well as formalization of savings.
You're not. Let's take this digitization. It was about 94 lakh crore in November. It peaked at about 137, 140 lakh crore. And in October, it's come back to 99 or 100 lakh crore. In fact, today's newspapers, the last couple of days' newspapers, have any number of stories which says cash is back, cash is king in this village. They have given stories about villages which were declared cashless villages, and now cash is back. I mean, I want you to read these stories which are right there in front of you in today's papers, yesterday's papers. Number one. Number two, when money which is among the people, money in the hands of the people, comes into the banking system, there is a price to be paid. the banking system, the banks are paying extra interest. And among the depositors who were forced to deposit the money, if he has got a larger risk appetite, he then puts it in the stock market. Someone with a lower risk appetite puts it in mutual funds, NBFCs. So when money which in the hands of the people and not into the formal financial system comes into the financial system, either voluntarily or by force, it has to find a resting place in either a bank or an insurance company or an NBFC or a finance company or in the stock market. But there is a cost to that. Look at what's done to the stock market. The price-earnings ratio is at a dizzy level of 27. Are you seriously suggesting that a 27 price-earnings ratio is sustainable, or it reflects the earnings capacity, earnings potential of those companies? Therefore, for every apparent gain, there is a real cost. I think the finance minister is counting only the apparent gains. He is completely forgetting the costs. And I think we should look at both costs and the gains. For example, 16,000 crore rupees did not come back to the banking system. But even according to the Reserve Bank, they spent 21,000 crore. At the most conservative estimate, they spent 21,000 crore in handling the logistics of demonetization, printing currency, supplying. So for gaining 16,000, you spend 21,000 crore. So similarly, when the money that is in the hands of the people comes into the systems and finds a resting place in one of the places in the system, there is indeed a gain, but there is also a cost.
Let me then ask you and end by this, asking you this, Mr. Chidambaram. The finance minister saying that, look, you know, the Indian economy can withstand a 1% reduction as far as GDP growth is concerned, and that is what we have seen. The heavens will not fall, and India has the capacity to be able to absorb that. And the government also believes that the data now shows that the economy seems to have bottomed out, and we are headed towards an uptick, whether it's the latest core sector print or the kind of auto sales numbers that are coming in, even numbers coming in from companies like Titan, etc., that suggest that you know, sales have moved up. So, A, do you believe that the economy has bottomed out? And because we haven't really captured what has happened on the informal side, what do you believe has been the real impact on the economy?
Well, three questions rolled into one. Let me answer them quickly. Number one, we don't know yet whether 5.7 is the bottom of the decline. The fact is, for 6 quarters, it has declined from 9.1 to 5.7. That's a fact. Whether it will turn up or continue to decline is a matter of speculation. Fact versus speculation, I'd rather rely on the fact, wait for the next quarter. It's quite possible that the next quarter may show 6.2, 6.3. It's possible that the quarter after that may decline to 5.9. We have to wait for trends. People have to wait for trends over 4 quarters or 6 quarters, not celebrate or condemn based on 1 quarter. We did not say anything until we saw a 6-quarter decline. Now, question number 2. If the finance minister says that India can easily sustain a 1% decline, that is a cynical statement. India grew at 3.5%. For about 30 years, the heavens did not fall, but we remained poor. We didn't create jobs. Wages were low. People could not access goods or services. If the finance minister thinks that India can grow at 5%, so be it. After all, in Mr. Vajpayee's government, in the last 2 years of Mr. Yashwant Sinha's finance ministership, the economy did grow at sub 4%. Therefore, heavens will not fall, but jobs will not be created. Young people will remain jobless. Wages will not rise. People will not access goods and services, and we will remain poor. If that is your goal, well, state that is your goal and celebrate it. I think whichever way you look at it, demonetization was a gross mistake. India cannot afford, the loss is not 1%, the loss is close to 1.5%, maybe close to 2%. 1% is 1.5 lakh crore. 1.5% is 2.25 lakh crore. India can't afford to lose 2.25 lakh crore of output. And while the finance minister cites, cherry picks data, I can also cite critical data. The most critical data is number one, gross fixed capital formation. I have not heard a government answer to that. It has declined almost 7-8 percentage points. Number two, credit growth. It's at a 20-year low. Credit to small industry is negative at about 3%. Credit to micro industry is negative. There's no answer to that. Number three, private investment. It's one of the lowest level. Just look at CMIE numbers. They are the ones who track investment intentions and investment. It's again at a historic low.
Yeah.
As long as private investment, credit growth, and gross fixed capital formation are low, at historical lows, I don't buy into any other data. Yes, of course, there will be some bright sparks here and there. But look at steel, look at cement, they're all negative. Okay. Thank you. Continue your debate.
All right, Mr. Chidambaram, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. That is the former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram with his take on why he believes that the demonetization exercise was a gross mistake.